Well, hello, vinyl community people. It's Mike, MGK Boston. I was not planning on doing another video, but I was going back and looking at comments, either something with Gary over at Physical Format Rock and Roll and Brian over at Embryonic Robot. There was a little back and forth on Gary's love for ABBA, or ABBA as he pronounces it, and I profess my love for the music of Neil Diamond. Not the man himself, just the music. It's just one of those things. You can't explain it. I don't even know where to begin. I just really like it. I've always liked it since I was a kid, and I just can't shake it. Yeah, it's just like, it's a relationship that won't end. Anyway, yeah, so, I just thought, hey, Brian doesn't quite understand this phenomenon of Neil Diamond, so I thought I'd just showcase a couple things here for Brian, for his entertainment and his fruition, to pile on to his already large mountain of musical knowledge and throw this on the stack, if you will, stack of wax. So anyway, yeah, Neil Diamond, very briefly, I don't want to spit out a Wikipedia entry here, but began his career as a writer for a publisher in the Brill Building, like a lot of people, like Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel did, among others, writing songs for other people. So Neil Diamond wrote songs for the Monkees. He even wrote one song for these guys. This is a different cover, I think, than most copies of the Book of Taliesin. Of course, the band I'm talking about is these guys. It's Deep Purple. This is their second release from 1968. And the song I'm talking about on here is number 3. Yeah, Neil Diamond wrote that one, Kentucky Woman. Bet you didn't know that, Brian. Maybe you did, though. Maybe you did. Anyway, in other breaking news, I got a cool postcard yesterday from a non-vinyl community member, but a friend of mine was down in Miami, sent me this one. This gal is sexy and she knows it, so there's that today. Anyway, I'm just going to show a few of my Neil Diamond records here. So this is his third release here. It's called Velvet Gloves and Spit. I think I showed this in my 420 video recently because there's a song on here called the Pot Smoker Song. It sucks. It's a terrible song, but there are other good moments on here. The big single from this one is a song called Two-Bit Man-Child. That's a really good track. And there's for some reason Neil's got his face split. There's his eyes. There's the nose and mouth. Wow. All right. Neil's third. Jumping ahead a bit into the 70s. This is his 7th album. He was pumping these babies out like coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, one after another. So this is, again, his 7th release called Stones. Some of the highlights on this one, he actually does a cover on this one. Brian, you'll find this very interesting. It's a cover of Suzanne right there. I know Leonard Cohen is one of Brian's favorite musicians. So there's a cover he does on there. He also does a cover on here. This album I forgot, actually. It's most of this album is covers. There's a version of Chelsea Morning by Joni Mitchell. The country legend Roger Miller, he does a cover of Husbands and Wives even on this one. So yeah, this is pretty good. There's Neil, he's just hanging out with no shoes in the garden, contemplating his next album probably and making more money like he would with all his hits. Solid, I think he had a dozen #1 hits in the United States in his career. I could be wrong on that. It was 10 or 12. But anyway, jumping ahead in the same year, actually, this was the follow-up to Stones. This is a live album recorded in Los Angeles at the Troubadour on the Sunset Strip. It's called Gold, and at this point, he had a number of hits to capitalize on for a live show. Both Sides Now, that's a Joni Mitchell song, Holly Holy, Cherry Cherry, and of course the song I mentioned earlier. He does his own version of it, Kentucky Woman, that song that the Deep Purple took. And of course, Sweet Caroline here, right there. So yeah, it's actually the name of my daughter, but she was not named for the reason for this one. At the time, I remember when our daughter was born, we were in the process of getting ready to move to Massachusetts, and I was reading a book about the Kennedys, and I liked the name Caroline from Caroline Kennedy. And yeah, so that's how my daughter got her name. But anyway, this is Neil Diamond Gold. I'm getting off topic. And then another live album. It's a hot August night the following year in 1972. There he is. Almost looks like he's in a heavy metal act. He's 100% denim in that outfit. I don't have any 100% denim in the MGK summer collection. It's too hot for that. It's just t-shirts, right? So yeah, it's a double. Here you go. you know, and so as the critics would say on here, his audience falls like plums at his feet. More of a triumph in every measurable way than his stunning show last summer at the Greek Theater. Most of all, Diamond gave of himself. Wow, the critics were all over this, and for good reason. It's pretty listenable. Red Red Wine, he does a version of that later on to be covered by UB40 in the mid-'80s. And again, like other songs like Play Me, Cracklin' Rosie, Song Sung Blue, that's another favorite of mine. And what do we got next? We got Rainbow. I think this one's 1973, 74. There it is right there. This is a caricature of Neil. Opens this with a nice version of Harry Nilsson's Everybody's Talking. Does a version of Jerry Jeff Walker's Mr. Bojangles. There it is on side 2. Does a Randy Newman tune on here. I think it's going to rain today. That's really good. And He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. I forget who did the original of that one from the 60s. But yeah, this is really good. So again, this one, Rainbow. Neil Diamond. There's the rainbow right there. Right, positive vibes from Neil. Here he is right here. This is the last in my collection, 1980. Ironically, I saw this film, I think at the time. My parents probably rented it from the video store. I was probably about 11 or 12. I thought it was really boring. It's about this kid growing up like Neil did in Brooklyn. Neil's father in real life was not a rabbi, but in this film, his father's a rabbi and he's expected to carry the torch, but then he decides to be a pop singer and it doesn't go very well. His father's played by the legendary Sir Laurence Olivier. It's a funny story about that. I took a film course as an elective in my first year of university, and we watched the Laurence Olivier film. I can't remember which one, and I'm like, oh my God, that's that guy from the Neil Diamond movie. But anyway, hilarious. So yeah, as you can see there, Laurence Olivier, Neil Diamond. This movie was pretty much universally panned by critics. But anyway, Neil, he took a stab at acting here, and he showed up in a couple of TV shows too, I think in the 80s, just cameo appearances. He might have been on an episode of Miami Vice, but I could be wrong on that. I was pretty devout follower of Miami Vice at the time, and I seem to recall him making an appearance, but that's a long time ago. And one more example of Neil Young's influence in the world of popular culture, a band called Urge Overkill. They did a cover of Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon on this Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino's sex on the brain, second film right here. So yeah, Urge Overkill do a version of Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. And of course, that's a Neil Diamond original. And yeah, so yeah, Pulp Fiction right there. So Brian, I hope you like this. Brian over at Embryonic Robot, all jokes aside, he runs an excellent channel, encyclopedic rather. And I'll put a link to his channel below. I'll also put a link to Gary, Physical Format Rock and Roll. If you've been living under a rock and don't know Gary, there'll be a link to his latest video below in my description. So anyway, folks, have a good afternoon, Sunday fun day, and I will see you next time.